The 1980s were absolutely berserk. Some of the most badass motorcycles ever built then are collecting dust in museums, while we're stuck with watered-down, over-computerized machines manufacturers think we want. That decade was the Wild West of motorcycle design. Turbochargers, exotic materials, sci-fi styling, and power figures that made no sense. These weren't just bikes, they were rolling pieces of art with engines. But now, most of these legends have been forgotten, replaced by bikes that play it safe and feel like appliances. Today we're counting down the top 10 motorcycles from the 80s that we desperately need back in 2025. Number 10, 1985 Yamaha RZ500, RD500LC. At number 10 is the Yamaha RZ500, pure two-stroke madness wrapped in 80s plastic. It packed a 499cc liquid-cooled V4 two-stroke engine, making around 88 horsepower. That might not sound wild today, but being a two-stroke, it hit like a freight train when the power band kicked in. Built as a homologation special for the 500cc Grand Prix class, the RZ500 looked as aggressive as it rode. What made it unforgettable was its split personality. Below 6,000 RPM, it was tame and easygoing. But twist the throttle past that point, and you were clinging to a rocket ship. Yamaha's YPVS power valve system helped balance insane top-end power with just enough low-end civility. Why do we want it back? Because today's bikes are too smooth, too predictable, too boring. The RZ500 demanded respect and skill. You had to know its quirks, mix your own oil, and brace for the explosive surge when the valves opened. And that sound? Nothing today matches the raw scream of a tuned two-stroke V4. In 2025, we need that thrill again. Number 9, 1987 Suzuki GSXR1100. The GSXR1100 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a revolution in aluminum and fiberglass. Suzuki took their 750cc race bike, gave it a bigger engine, and basically said, try not to die. With a 1052cc air-cooled inline-4 making 125 horsepower and a 460-pound weight, it kicked off the superbike era in 1987. What made it legendary was its obsession with performance. Suzuki didn't care about comfort, practicality, or even safety. They wanted the fastest production bike, and they nailed it. Aggressive riding position, race-spec suspension, and brakes pulled from their endurance racers made this thing a track weapon, not a commuter. We need this bike back because it came from a time when manufacturers weren't scared to go too far. Today's superbikes are fast, but also too safe, too polished. The GSXR1100 was raw, intimidating, and unforgettable. It demanded skill and nerve, and gave you a rush that modern bikes just don't. In a world full of rider aids and comfort modes, we need something this wild again. Number 8, 1983 Honda VF1000R. The VF1000R was Honda's answer to, what if we built a MotoGP bike for the street? It was a limited run homologation special, only 1,000 made, built for endurance racing. With the 998cc liquid-cooled V4 pumping out 122 horsepower in 1983, it was a monster. But the engine was just the beginning. It had a revolutionary aluminum frame, full fairings, and a level of fit and finish that made rivals jealous. The V4 was essentially a street-legal race motor, with gear-driven cams and a sky-high redline. The riding position? Full racer. This bike didn't want you to ride it, it wanted you to merge with it. Why bring it back? Because it showed Honda at their engineering peak. This wasn't a budget bike or the result of marketing teams. It was pure mechanical ambition. The VF1000R was decades ahead of its time, with performance and tech we're still chasing today. In 2025, we need bikes built by dreamers again, not just by spreadsheets. Number 7, 1982 Yamaha Turbosca 650. The Turbosca 650 was Yamaha's wild entry into the short-lived turbo war of the early 1980s. Yamaha took its dependable 650cc inline-4, added a turbocharger, and unleashed a machine that was equal parts genius and insanity. Power jumped from 70 to 90 horsepower, not mind-blowing today, but the turbo surge made it feel like a rocket. At low RPMs, it rode like a calm, everyday bike. But once that turbo spooled up, it turned into something feral, launching forward with a jolt that caught many riders off guard. It also had Yamaha's advanced electronic fuel injection and an engine bay that looked like it belonged in a fighter jet. We need the Turbosca back because it captured an era when manufacturers weren't afraid of taking risks. Today's bikes are smooth, safe, and predictable. The Seca was quirky, temperamental, and rewarding if you took the time to learn it. In a world of polished performance, we need bikes with soul again. Machines that challenge you and make every ride unforgettable. Number 6. 1984 Kawasaki GPZ900R Ninja. The GZ900R wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a cultural shift that redefined what a sport bike could be. Kawasaki had built its reputation on speed with this machine. Powered by a 908cc liquid-cooled inline-4, making 115 horsepower. It was the first production bike to break 150 miles per hour, and it did it in style with a modern full fairing and cutting-edge performance. What made the GPZ900R special was how it combined speed, handling, and reliability. While other brands were building race bikes barely tamed for the street, the GZ was a true everyday machine that just happened to be blisteringly fast. With the DOHC 16-valve engine, lightweight chassis, and wind tunnel tested aerodynamics, it set the blueprint for every sport bike that followed. We need the GZ900R back because it struck the perfect balance between performance and real-world usability. Today's superbikes are faster than ever, but they've become niche machines. The GZ was exciting, approachable, and packed with character. In 2025, we need bikes that bring back that feeling. The kind that makes you ride just for the joy of it. Number 5. 1985 Honda VF1000F Interceptor. The VF1000F Interceptor was Honda's 1980s masterpiece, a blend of futuristic looks and cutting-edge tech. Powered by a 998cc liquid-cooled V4, making 122 horsepower, it wore sleek bodywork that looked straight out of a sci-fi movie. As Honda's flagship sport bike, it showcased their engineering muscle with a revolutionary aluminum frame, full fairing, and gear-driven cams. What set the Interceptor apart was its sophistication. While rivals were still stuck on air-cooled engines and steel frames, Honda had already moved on to MotoGP-level cooling, frame design, and aerodynamics. The V4 engine delivered smooth, explosive power, and the bike handled like it was hardwired to your brain. We want it back because it captured Honda at their boldest, when innovation trumped market trends. The VF1000F wasn't built for focus groups, it was a vision made real. In 2025, we need that kind of ambition again. Bikes that lead, not follow. Number 4. 1986 Suzuki GSXR750. The GSXR750 was the bike that changed everything. Before it, sport bikes were just standard bikes with clip-ons and fairings. Suzuki flipped the script with the GSXR, a true race bike with lights. Its 749cc liquid-cooled inline-4 made 106 horsepower, but the real shocker was the 388-pound weight. In 1986, that was groundbreaking. What set it apart was its pure focus on performance. Suzuki used an aluminum frame, magnesium wheels, and wind tunnel-tested aerodynamics. The flat slide carbs gave razor-sharp throttle response, and the engine hit hard across the rev range. It wasn't just fast, it felt like a race bike because it basically was one. We need it back because it wasn't safe or polished. It was raw, aggressive, and thrilling. It rewarded skill, punished hesitation, and made every ride feel like a track day. In a world of ride modes and comfort settings, the original GSXR750 reminds us why motorcycles are supposed to scare us a little. Number 3. 1983 Honda CX650 Turbo. The CX650 Turbo was Honda's most ambitious motorcycle from the 1980s, pairing their quirky CX-V twin with a sophisticated turbocharger system. This wasn't just a fast bike, it was a showcase of engineering, with electronic fuel injection, a computer-controlled turbo, and complexity that wouldn't be common until decades later. The turbo boosted power from 65 to 97 horsepower and completely transformed the bike's character. What made it special was its incredible sophistication. The early onboard computer managed boost, fuel, and ignition, while an intercooler and EFI made it feel like a jet more than a motorcycle. It was smooth down low, explosive up high. Why do we want it back? Because it showed what happens when engineers are given free rein. The CX650 Turbo may not have sold well, but it pushed boundaries, and in 2025, we need more bikes that do exactly that. Number 2. 1984 Kawasaki GPZ750 Turbo. The GZ750 Turbo was Kawasaki's entry into the turbo wars, and it was absolutely mental. This bike took Kawasaki's proven 750cc inline-4 and added a turbocharger, resulting in a machine that produced 112 horsepower and would accelerate like it was shot out of a cannon. The GZ750 Turbo was the fastest production bike of its era, capable of over 140 miles per hour and 0 to 60 times that embarrassed supercars costing 10 times as much. What set the GZ750 Turbo apart was its incredible performance and its Jekyll and Hyde personality. At low RPMs, it was docile and manageable, perfect for cruising around town. But when that turbo spooled up, it transformed into something completely different. A machine that would surge forward with a rush of power that was both thrilling and terrifying. The bike featured Kawasaki's sophisticated digital fuel injection system and a turbocharger that was larger and more aggressive than anything else on the road. The reason we desperately need this bike back is that it represented the absolute pinnacle of the 1980s excess and engineering ambition. Modern turbocharged motorcycles are incredibly sophisticated, but they're also incredibly tame. The GZ750 Turbo was wild, unpredictable, and absolutely addictive once you learn to work with its quirks. In an era of smooth linear power delivery, we need a bike that reminds us what it feels like to ride something that has a distinct personality, something that requires skill and understanding to master. Number 1. 1985 Yamaha VMax. The VMax wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. A middle finger to anyone who thought motorcycles should be sensible or practical. This machine featured a 1200cc liquid-cooled V4 engine that produced 145 horsepower, making it the most powerful production bike of its era. But the VMax wasn't about top speed, it was about acceleration, about that incredible rush of power that would pin you to the seat and launch you toward the horizon like a rocket. What made the VMax special was its incredible engine and its uncompromising focus on straight-line performance. The V4 engine featured Yamaha's V-Boost system, which opened up additional intake ports at 6,000 RPM, transforming the bike from fast to absolutely insane. The VMax could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds, making it faster than most supercars of the era. The bike's styling was equally aggressive, with a muscular, imposing presence that announced its intentions from a mile away. Why do we want it back? Because it represented everything that was great about 1980s motorcycles: excess, power, and a complete disregard for practicality. The VMax was built for one purpose: to go fast in a straight line. And it did that better than anything else on the road. In 2025, we need bikes that remind us why motorcycles are supposed to be exciting, dangerous, and absolutely thrilling. The VMax was all of those things and more, and we desperately need that kind of attitude back in the motorcycle world.